And we're back. We made it. We're still alive on Sketch55. So I wanted to bust out a rack that I had built after last sketch, and I was futzing around last sketch with um, trying to build a rack that you could load in a bunch of different presets and switch between them with the rack knob, and they would turn on and off. Um, I spent way too much time trying to mess around with that and ended up moving on from it, but was able to build something that has a nice array of, at least I went as far as 16. You can go up as high as, gosh, 128, really. That would be madness. So let's just play with this one for now with 16, and if we need to add more, we certainly can. You can see the mapping is a little squirrely. We've got our main chain selector knob going from 1 to 16, and then we've had to divide all 16 of these up essentially in this order so that when we get things moving along here, whichever number we see here, that is turned on here. So that was not super difficult to figure out. It was just tedious to have to map everything. So also there is a instrument version that I built because I had this idea that I wanted to at some point have a bunch of different kick sounds, and we could put a randomizer right before this and have instruments randomly selected. Now, of course, this has the on-off, so we would have to, automate this or modulate this. We could obviously make a version where this is not here. I think we could just easily delete this container portion in all 16 here, and that would be a lot easier. And the way to go to having a lot of different, percussion sounds in one instrument container that we could easily select with a randomizer at the intro. So anyway, let's get to it. I'm going to just record just a bit of melody here, and let's hit play on that. I need to set the length of my clip here, I guess. Or maybe it's this length here. Sometimes I still get a little confused in Ableton 11. Okay, cool. Got ourselves a nice little drone. Fits this textural, colorful, smeary video pretty well. So let's just turn on this and play some notes. And see where we get from there. Cool. So we really could use any sounds to run through our effects selection container. Now it just takes a bit of setup. We just have to drag different effects in to the slots. We don't obviously have to use all 16. One thing interesting to note is we could, if we wanted to, and I might be jumping ahead too much here, we could actually nest one of these inside. So you can have, this one could have 16 inside of it. So really there's no end to how deep you can nest stuff. If you really want, for like a live setup, you could easily have a really deep array of effects at your fingertips, and they'll all stay off except for the one that you have selected on, which is great for performing live. It means you're only using the CPU that you need at the time. So I wanted to drop in like presets from various effects, like this spectral time, or let's see, we've also got this spectral resonator. So we could have this preset in effect 1, and as I move this to 2, you'll hear this shut off. and see that the audio is just coming through here. So we could drag in this next preset here, and so on and so forth down the line. Really, you can have as many in there as you want. It all depends on how much RAM you're sporting, because each effect takes a bit of RAM. Even when it's shut off. Obviously, it doesn't use CPU when it's shut off, so that's good at least. So I think we only have, let's see here. In this case, we don't have, 9 through, so really just 8. Spectral resonators. This is the only way to get around being able to select different presets live. Obviously, you've got this button here, and you can swap it out, swap certain things out that way, but performing live, I guess, unless you have an Ableton push, which with the push, I know it's pretty easy to do things like change presets in a live fashion. This is a lot smoother in some ways. I think it's a lot like, well, with a push, as far as my experience, and I'm not super experienced with a push, but I think you have to, you have to do some menu diving a little bit on the push to finally get to the point where you can swap out certain things. This is a little more at your fingertips in that you just have to have a knob mapped to a MIDI controller. And if all of our effects inside of here are set to full wet, then we'll get a much more dramatic sound, and we can nest this selector rack inside of a wet and dry rack, which for me, that is my default. So under here, under utilities, I could just double click that, and there we go. There it is, all default. And I don't think I want to put it inside the container. My default has this container that shuts off, so any effects I put in there will just shut off when this is set to 0. But since we have this sort of auto, these are all set to shut off unless you've selected them here. I don't think we need to nest it. It wouldn't really kill anybody if we did nest it. So now we've got an on-off or a wet-dry there, and we can map our effect selection here. All right, so let's add a little automation there. So we don't need that track. You can tell just a lot of the presets for that resonator aren't super useful for this context right out of the gate. They probably need more tweaking, or I just need to learn how to understand that effect more so that I can learn how to manipulate it to the situation a little better. Cool. So we could duplicate that, but we probably want to have a different effect in there. So, we've got all these different resonators. I'm curious what will sound like if we, and let's go ahead and swap out. Get some Los Angeles in there. Can we have enough Los Angeles in there? That's the question. I'm actually really curious how they got the naming scheme for these. If they just randomly decided to name the presets after a bunch of cities, or if there is some significance in the tunings. I kind of doubt that. I have a feeling it's probably, let's just, name them after cities for the heck of it, because that'll be easier to remember. And let's go all the way, use all these. Yeah, we got a Valhalla. Where the hell is that? That's not a real city. Or there probably is a city named Valhalla, and I just am a geography idiot. Okay, cool. Cool, so let's get weird, as per usual. And if we put some curves in there, we'll get some, yeah, real fast craziness. Let's try this resonator over here. And I'm going to name that spectral resonator so we know the difference. Cool, let's try out our instrument version. And for this one, I am going to just draw some C3 notes in there. A whole bunch of 16th C3 notes. And we just need a preset of some kind, and we've got these all right. We just need to pitch that one way down. Let's do 2 octaves on that. Actually, cool, let's tune it. Okay, and let's try another preset in this other kick. Definitely need to turn that down for a bit. Cool, and then we'll just, for the sake of speed. Awesome, and our note probability gate. And let's go ahead and modulate this. And pull that off of the grid. It's going to sound, of course, a little bit randomish, but now I want to hear what sounds like when we It's definitely interesting. Like all of our sketches, it starts out a bit iffy, and maybe a little iffy for a little while, actually. That's always the challenge, you know, especially if you're sort of timing yourself to do this thing within like a an hour, or I don't know. It's not easy. Clock is ticking, and that can be a bit of mental pressure, which I kind of like the challenge, honestly. And we're definitely getting some pops, I think, with some of the tails on the kick are getting cut off as our instrument gets shut off by our instrument selector. So I suppose that's a consideration to keep in mind when, dealing with this particular setup. And I think we can move this. Let's see. I think we can move our instruments out of this. Oh, I just keep nesting these. We want to ungroup. Control-Shift-G. Let's try that. Cool. So in this case, I think if we just Control-Shift-G these, we lose the container that has the on-off switch. So we should not get clips on the tails of our kicks. Now that is a mouthful. And if we do the same thing to our effects, we'll also keep the tails going. Now, that's going to mean as the tails, we're going to have a lot of these resonators stacking and essentially being used at the same time. So, that's probably problematic that we would run out of CPU, I think, pretty quick at that point. So maybe for that, I'll leave the on-off switch containers inside of these. Two spectral resonators, that's insanity. All right, how about just this? And that's tough when you have just dragged a bunch of presets in to something like this. You don't know exactly what each one sounds like, so it takes a minute to kind of listen through and determine which sections you need to clean up. All right, let's play with our rate of our tremolo a little bit. Cool. Let's dial some of these back and just hear what we get. So since we still have this knob linked to the chain here, the MIDI notes coming in are only going to play whatever this bar is sitting upon. So cool. let's play with the, if I can find it, the spectral time. And let's listen to a few of these. Okay, cool. So let's bust out the selection container and fill it up with some of that effect. Yeah, where is it? Where is everybody? Definitely get lost in Ableton 11. My brain has been very much trained to just a whole bunch of effects and stuff being like right there and yeah, specific locations of things. But honestly, learning new stuff like this I think is really really good for the brain. I think it keeps you sharp. So each one of these, it sounds like, as they turn on, they almost need a little time to sort of wind up. So I'll move it over here in hopes that that wind-up time kind of gets obscured by some of the tails of these. Oh, we've got a lot of racks going on here. And maybe we could see what a double tremolo in the path would sound like. If nothing else, something like a setup like this could be useful for just generating different tones, different sounds. You could record the output and open up the WAV file and just cut out little pieces, sections, whatever works. Cool. So I think instead of the kicks, I would like to hear something like a more clicky kind of sound. So I could adjust all of these down, I think. Alright, let's get weird. I want to drop a chord in here and just shift up some of these notes. Awesome. Now, for some, let's sprinkle on a little bit of tempo crap. That's an audio effect, if I remember. Could easily be converted into a MIDI effect, but okay. And MIDI, LFO MIDI. Let's see. want a random, slow that down a little bit, we'll map it to here, and pull down our offset. Cool. Now we need one more of these mapped to our BPM. There we go. Let's see, are we getting any love over here? I think maybe. Cool. Getting a lot more shifty there. Our clap sound is maybe a little grating. Could try to do something weird with the old chorus effect. Now that I can't have this effect, I'm using it a lot more, I think. I think I want to add some more time to this so we get a bit of a curve between our tempo changes. If this is even doing anything. Looks like we're getting a little bit of a time between, but it's almost like this it's not respecting the amount of time. We'd see a lot more stuff going on there, but yeah, perhaps we broke this Max for Live device, or it's just not working 100% based on this being Ableton 11, and some things could have changed. It's hard to say. All right, I wanted to bust out one of the... We've got this whole section of audio generators, and some really powerful, crazy ones that were built ages ago. I'm not even sure when these came about, but let's pull in the Metroid one, and we'll move it over to our, let's see, out of Future Sketches, over down here into racks, instruments, no, sound generators, yep, and then multi. Cool. There's our first one, and this these are built to contain a lot of different sound generators. Each one of these is set to turn on. This one, it looks like it only has 2 in there, so that's... Yeah, let's just turn that up and see what we get. You can see it's a bit of a mess in there. But at the end of the day, you know, sometimes you gotta break an omelet to make some eggs. And I think we've got this frequency, which if we increase it, it should be a lot more active. Nice. Now I'm going to pull out the reverb on this. And let's see if we've got one in here as well. I'm guessing that, you know, I'm already seeing we're getting a lot of CPU use. So if we pull on this one, it's going to work double time. So let's turn this down and have a listen to what that bass bleep, whatever that is, sounds like. What we could do to lighten the load is create a new MIDI track, we could just make a copy of this. And we could turn down this one here. And so we've got, you know, this one on here and this one on here. Let's group all this stuff. We'll leave our tempo by itself, and actually don't think we need all these for now. Just gonna do a little bit of maintenance. Cleanup crew coming through. Awesome. Okay, so let's route this. I should probably just have this set up already in my template. I can just remember at the end of this to do that. All right, let's get a... You know, I could just type gate, honestly. That's an easy way to pull up the... Of course, Ableton tends to, you know, choke a little bit on searches, I've noticed in other places. All right, we want to route from there, and let's turn on that. Okay, cool. So now we can get some sweet effects. Get some reverb going in there. I want to set up something just for the heck of it. Kind of, wow, yeah, really coming through on this. Just very generative, out of nowhere. I'm curious what is happening here. We've got this density set really low on this crackle, and an auto pan sort of even choking any sounds that may come out of here. And this gate, so we've only got things over a certain threshold. I think this thing is really dialed in very specifically, I think. This creates our tone with a very high resonation. And this just destroys the tone. It's really simple, I guess. With this, yeah, pushing the pitch down. Yeah, that's a little bit of a beast. All right, where was I? I was going to put some, I think, delay effects in here. Not the beat repeat, but just some, yes. And let's get this time mapped. Let's map this time here. I want to make sure these are linked. Duplicate that, map this. Oh, it's already mapped for us. Very cool. And so let's adjust some of these times here. And this one up a little bit. Not so high. Maybe it'll go up to there on that now. Let's add a wet and dry here. I also want to turn the filter off. Okay, not sure what's going to happen here. This could sound pretty nutty. Let's map this wet and dry first. Turn that down. And we need to map this time to here. Cool. So a bit of a strange strange resonator effect here. And let's change the one that is... Alright, now... And we need a DC killer at the end of that, because we are definitely getting some hardcore DC resonation. Perhaps we need on this last one to turn the filter on, just so we get a bit of control of the final delay. Cool, very, very strange and awesome experimental sounding. So let's get some automation going here. Cool. Got some really strange sounding, warpy sounding stuff there, which is always a good thing. Now, I want to see if I copy all these effects here, I assume I won't get to keep the mapping. Yeah, probably not. Simply because we're copying in from one. However, if I copy this and I paste it in here, you probably do get to keep mappings. So let's try something here. And let's map, let's see, what do we got here? We got this, effects 2 is 5 and 12, so let's also map, let's pull this one out of there and map it 5 and 12. Yeah, we'll get rid of this one and map it to that, and 5 and 12. This is some serious voodoo, and we'll call this effects 2. And I wanted to play around with the Alright, so we've got a different style between 1 and 2. Looks like it is turning off. That's effects 1. Yeah, that's correct. Okay. Yep. So I need to map these. That's right. Cool. So we can switch between those two. This is kind of a resonator beast. And then somehow I stopped. Yeah. And solo. Yep. I think sometimes I go to hit Control R, and on my keyboard there's a function key right next to it, and I think I accidentally hit the function key in R, so I don't actually get a rename, and then I'll start typing in the name of it, and then whatever those keys fire off, you know, it's a mess. So let's call this Reso Beast. And then over here we don't have. Okay, so let's copy this and paste inside of there. Let's have a look and see. We got 13 and 21. Okay, that's the magic number. And let's click on this, map it to here. 13. 21. Cool. And we need to again map these and this which I could change this a little bit. Let's switch it up. And then also we can I usually don't like to use one. I think it sounds a bit obvious. There's a certain tone that comes out of this delay that's very recognizable to me. Alright, so let's go ahead and close that. And let's get an envelope follower in there. Ah, definitely got to get some reverse in there also. Kind of a weird little sketch. Definitely an alien landscape. And let's put the wet dry to that. Nice. Cool. So only when loud stuff comes out of our weirdo group do we actually get this strange resonation. Okay. I'm moving too fast here. All right, we got to get some reverb in there. Some hybrid reverb. Let's not use the procedural, only the convolution. And one of our sweet impulse responses. I'm not sure why this one does not want to work. Honestly, haven't quite figured that one out yet. It's not in a sample rate that's, you know, unusable. Very strange. Well, at least we got some reverse quality there. So this thing can get quite resonant. I think the best way I can think of to remedy that is let's drop it in a wet dry and put a limiter inside there. I need an auto hotkey for the limiter also, the gate and the limiter. Such a large list of little things to do. Cool, and we'll 100% wet dry that there. And maybe we'll put our Reso Beast here and I'm thinking we should put a random LFO on this reverse thing here. Can't tell the difference if it's actually working or... I think what I need to do is actually group this. In fact, I'm going to put it in a wet dry. For sure get some bass killed off of that. Okay, we need to going here? What are we doing here? Let's map this to here and get this LFO mapped to that. Oh, wrong one. Actually wanted to map it to this reverse. And did we modulate this one already? I guess we didn't. Some real nutty sounds happening. Okay. Honestly, I have no idea what's happening here with this analog. So yeah, maybe without that was actually slightly more interesting. And super easy drone is to use the convolution reverb, the hybrid reverb, and one of our homemade, staring right at it there. All right, let's drop that in there and get one of our hybrid samples in there. Impulse swell. And if we change the decay down, we lose a lot of the gosh, I really wish there was a volume inside of this thing, but it did sound pretty good with the blend on with some of this procedural. to drop a compressor on here with a sidechain actually from this melody. This is one of those songs that if we were to compose this out would be a good perpetual build up, and then you just keep adding a bunch of different weird layers, and then just sort of in the whole thing. Start out with all our weird textures, and looks like my CPU is not super happy, but I feel like the CPU meter in Ableton 11 is not 100% accurate. You should see more gain reduction when we get really loud sounds popping through. I think it would actually sound better if we had a dry chain and then we just turn this octave up on, +1 octave, and we could do a -1 also. I think we've kind of messed around with these ideas in previous sketches. Just add water. Actually, no water sounds. I can't do water sounds too much anymore. It's too obvious. Too many people have put water sounds. I've put water sounds. Too many times. Really wish we could have this tempo, changing just on this section here. We could open up 2 different iterations of Ableton and just record this out separate. At least with the PC, it's easy to do. You just have to make sure you have allow multiple instances set to on, and at that point, we should be able to fire open another instance of go ahead and save this. Oh, that wasn't good. Something that Ableton I don't think likes when it's trying to open a new version is to save on the previous one. I've also noticed other weird behaviors. I like to use 2 or 3 different instances of Ableton, at least when mastering albums. One instance, we need to turn this way down. We're super hot there, and let's get it turned down a little bit here. In fact, I'll just turn these off here for now. And then that one off for now. And in our second instance, we've got the same sketch. We just need to shut off these auto-running things that it's great that you don't even have to push play and they just kind of work based on crackles from the vinyl crackler. So we just turn off a lot of this. In fact, mute this and mute that. And we could even mute our tempo thing, which means we can set this to whatever we want. So in essence, we have two separate timelines at this point. On Mac, what you have to do, and it's pretty annoying, to get multiple instances of the same version open in your applications folder, you essentially have to create a duplicate copy of the Ableton application, which can take up a bit of space on your hard drive. You can duplicate it as many times as you want versions of Ableton to be open, but otherwise that's the only way to get multiple, as far as I know, and that may have changed since Big Sur and even Ableton 11, I'm not really sure, but that has worked for me in the past. But if you're wanting to master an album you're working on, you've got one copy open with all the exported WAV files, and that's your mastering project. And there you'll have a bunch of notes per WAV file, and then you can have the other, in your other monitor or whatever, the other Ableton open with the actual songs, and you can go in and easily make changes on the second iteration of Ableton. It's a much faster workflow than jumping back and forth between a mastering project and your individual song projects. So everyone's got their own weird method of doing that, and that's kind of how I tackle that, and it seems to help the process move along a lot faster, so I can do fun things like sketch. So anyway, I don't think we need this one open anymore. Also, when you're playing live, having two instances of Ableton open is kind of nice. You can have a song if you want, one song in one version and another song in another version, and kind of like go back and forth between, there's several different use cases for the multiple instances situation. And I'm glad that they've allowed this option to allow multiple instances, and that they've kept that in there, because I do think it's a really powerful, subtle yet powerful tool. Okay, enough yammer, and let's get back to, I think, to make this also feel a little faster, we could certainly try to just turn these off and see what happens, what we get. I don't think this weirdo stuff's going to sound quite as dynamic, but let's just duplicate that and get multiple versions in a row. Why not? Got ourselves a really nice spread of cool. And then with this on, what do we get? We want to add some motion really easily. The auto filter. Yeah, not in the right folder. So let's give it a real slow movement and pull this down. And let's also add one to here. Before our delays. And let's pull out an auto pan and get some of that, some slow dynamics. Cool. It's nice when you have, the frequency is moving, and then you've got the auto filter moving, and everything's just kind of moving on their own pace. It's fun to, a lot of happy accidents can pop out of those kinds of interactions. Put these before our delay here. And we'll drop one of those here before the reverb. So that way we'll still have the nice tail from the reverb. Now I want to see what happens if we slowly modulate the size I notice when we quickly modulate it, we get a lot of... This might create a nice warble. Speaking of, couldn't hurt to try and add some more warble. Cool, I don't think we'd notice too much on this one with some warble in there. Let's have a listen to this DSP slurp, see if anything magical comes out of that. I think it's going to sound too slurpy. Perhaps we could run it through one of these spectral effects. One last item I wanted to hear in there is in our sound generators, we've got this bass shaker snaker thing. I'm waiting for my CPU to just up and die already. Although looking at these bars down here, I mean, it honestly doesn't look like anything too crazy has happened, and only inside of here are we seeing a lot of kind of absurd nuttiness. So let's turn this on. Cool. And I think this, well, we can probably turn this one off, I would think. I don't really want the shaker sound in there anyway, so I'm going to delete that. Just wanted to get a little thudding bass, and this is kind of moving on its own. It is detached from the, as far as I know, the rhythm is being caused by this shape right here, and there might be, yeah, some of these auto pans, and these are set to rate and not sync to beat. So no matter what the weird tempo stuff is doing, this is kind of going to run at its own clock speed. Yeah, I got some nutty generative stuff, just like the first time or second time we've heard that. Very rare. Too much bass, if you ask me. Just a little too much. Probably needs a compressor. Yeah, let's try a compressor and see if we can squash some of the extra loud moments down a bit. I'm gonna go pretty aggressive with the ratio. There, this should keep it kind of smoothed off at the top there. And our built-in homemade fake verb, which is, dang, just really bassy. Really, that's nice. We get these different slopes here. That's cool. Very useful. Very clicky though. They could have spent a little more time and added some, I don't know, something to smooth that out. Every time I hear digital clicks, oftentimes I'm really removed from I don't know, it just kind of jars me out of really harsh digital clicks, I should say. Like, you know, stuff like the slurps, you know, like that's not too bad. There's something almost, you know, smooth about that. Yes, I'm spelling great today. Well, at least my brain hasn't totally glitched out too much, as it likes to do sometimes when we're recording. All right, cool. So as far as just like a slow techno ambient, you know, with some textures, this is probably good enough. So you could probably name these a little bit better, like textures, effects. No into the amount of automation, but for now I think this is nice. It's kind of a nice departure from some of the really aggressive beat-oriented stuff we have explored and experimented with the last few times, so I need to switch it up, honestly. I'm finding myself with these sketches not doing quite as much ambient lately. I think that's partly because I spent so many years neck deep in the ambient stuff. I will always love it. I love to listen to it on my own when just walking around. I've got tons of it on my phone. Been really digging Hotel Neon lately. And the new Audiker, some pretty jams on there. So anyway, I think we're done here. So I guess until next time, as always, keep it weird, keep it fun, keep it laid back, kill the pressure, kill the ego, rinse and repeat every day.